In this tutorial, I'm going to show you a couple of steps on how I created this image. It involves using programs like Lightroom 5 and Adobe Photoshop CS6. And this is going to incorporate a couple of different techniques that involve layering. And it's a very simple process. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a color image, place it on the bottom, put a black and white version of the image on top of it, and then use my eraser tool to take out the parts in the black and white image that is going to show the color coming through. And so let's get started here. We'll go into Lightroom 5 and let's see here, get the right image that we've got up here. This one was the shot that I took. I shot directly right into the camera. You can see I used ISO 6400 f8 for 1/100th of a second, and it was just a very simple shot. As you can see at the bottom, I used a lot of I shot a lot of eyeballs that night. So this is the one that we're going to shoot. As you can see, there's a lot of discoloring in different places. And so we want to clean all that up. And but this is the part right here that I think that would make the eyeball a good image. And it's going to be the green of the eyes. And so eventually we're going to turn the rest of this into black and white. And so we will, if you're unfamiliar with Lightroom, basically Lightroom is an editing program that will allow you to not only catalog your various shots, but it allows you to do some editing of the raw data. I shoot all of my, most of my photos, not all of them, but I shoot a lot of them in RAW. And basically what that is the total, it's got all the information that your camera sensor picks up when it takes an image. I use it a lot, especially if I'm going to edit. As you can see, we have a lot of basic controls over on the side. We have your standard ones like exposure, contrast, and then you can go in, you can control highlights and shadows and blacks. I have found that for portrait work, the clarity slider here does a really good job. The cameras are just so good at taking all of this, all of the detail, especially of skin tone, and it shows you a lot more than what you really need to see. So you can adjust a lot of, as you can see, if we adjust the slider over a lot of clarity, you see every little detail. And so sometimes I'll bump that up just to soften the image a little bit, just to make it not so harsh. But anyway, in Lightroom, this is sort of my main control panels. I edit a lot of photos directly in Lightroom. We have, again, like I said, the exposure controls. We have, you can go in and fix your hue, saturation, and luminance. You can add some noise reduction. So anyway, we're going to reset all of this because we don't really need all that, but I just wanted to show you Lightroom 5. So we are going to take the image that we have in Lightroom here, and the great thing about it is we can go and edit into a lot of different programs, but mainly Adobe Photoshop CS6. You can also do this in Photoshop Elements. You could do it in a couple different other programs, Photo Paint. So we're going to edit it over here. Let's see, and already had this open, so we will go back over to here. And so this is our image. And what I want to do is I want to create another layer of this image. And so I'm going to come over here and I am going to duplicate the layer. I'm going to call this the blur, because I want to get a little bit of really high-end blur on this this particular, all the skin tone. So I'm going to go from here and go to filter, blur, and we have the Gaussian blur. This is going to allow me to adjust how much of the blur I really want to use, and this will also show me a little preview of exactly how much I want to do. And so I'm just going to play around with that a little bit. And so we will apply this blur, and as you can see, we have a really it's a lot softer. And so I'm going to go over here to my eraser tool, and the eraser tool, I'm going to set it pretty large. I already had this one set up, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I want to take out pretty much a good area all around the eyeball. Okay, so now we have everything erased around the eyeball here. Let me show you a little bit of what that's going to look like. As you can see, all I've done is just taken out just a little bit of the color. So this is my blur layer. And this is the layer that is underneath it. So far, so good. And so once we save that in Photoshop, it will come back into Lightroom, and this is the final image of the blur. And now we will move on to the next step of converting that to black and white. Back in Lightroom, I now am looking at the final blurred image that has the outside of it blurred, but the inside is still nice and sharp. And so I'm going to go right over here to the black and white part of Lightroom 5. You can edit things obviously in color, but you can also convert it to a black and white image. And so it gives you the same amount of controls. You can adjust again the exposure, contrast, the highlights, everything. And so you can play around with this to get a very nice black and white image. Usually the one that comes up is pretty accurate, but it still gives you a lot of control over all the different areas of your image. And back in Photoshop, we've went in here and we've actually placed the image that we just did in Lightroom. We placed that onto a new layer that we have called BW image, or black and white image. And as you can see, it is above the other layers that I had worked on before. And so what we're going to do, again, I still have my eraser tool selected, and we are going to come right in here and we are going to erase out a portion of the color. And once we get that sort of the way we want it, we can actually fine-tune that so that we don't have any of the other pieces there. And so this is what it sort of shows with the way that I take it out. After we save everything back down, it comes right back into Lightroom, and here we are with the final image. It has all the layers that we just put together, and this was the final image that I submitted.